Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited episode 2 is finally
go!
here. So your favorites are back, Caden,
Mitchell,
and today we're going to be talking about why you don't need a woman, you just need Pauper.
For real though. All we do is play Pauper. We don't talk to anyone else.
I have no life. I have no friends. All I do is play Pauper.
It goes class, work, Pauper, sleep. And repeat.
No, but in all seriousness, today we're going to be talking about, more in depth about our favorite decks and the decks we play the most, because that was what our viewers voted on.
Yep.
Because it was that or a set review of WoW,
And
which that didn't land because I'm pretty sure everyone and their moms have done a set review of WoW. Maybe not Pauper specific, but you can kind of figure out what cards matter and whatnot. We could do that episode later. As you guys probably know, if you watched the first episode of the podcast and hopefully the tournament, which if you haven't, go back.
Go back.
Go watch them.
For real.
We'll wait. So today I'm talking about my favorite deck, Jeskai Decklist. So I guess really quick, I'll give a really fast synopsis just again for the new scrubs that don't listen to the first pieces of content. But Jeskai Decklist is a mid-range control deck. I'd say more mid-range than it is true control, but it is a mid-range deck that the whole objective of the game is to abuse ETB triggers and LTB triggers, which is entering the battlefield and leaving the battlefield. So some of the most powerful cards you have to pair with Ephemerate is Mole Drifter, which we talked about last time. You can invoke it for 3, which plays it like a sorcery, but then you ephemerate it in response. You draw 4 cards for 4 mana and get a 2/2 body, flying body, which is really good for Pauper, a ton of value. You get Archaeomancer, which can infinitely loop and ephemerate and get basically any spell you want for any given situation. So the deck's really versatile, really does a good job of answering a lot of the different array of threats in the format, which is what most mid-range decks do. So it's a lot of fun. It's a very hard deck to play, as most mid-range decks are, because it takes a lot of skill and a lot of decision-making. I guess really fast, Mitch, what I want to start with is the definition of a mid-range deck, because I think this is something that a lot of people, I don't think, really get the concept really well, unless you're like a really long-time standing Magic player. And especially if you're somebody who plays more Commander, though, more so than 1v1, you have no idea
they
what
have
a
really no
mid-range
clue.
is. So I guess, Mitch, I don't know if you want to start with your definition, and then I have more of a formal definition.
Mid-range decks are like, to me, they're like max consistency and a lot of things in the sideboard that can answer multiple things, or like cards that have multiple modes really abuse this, or like things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I'm actually going to give credit to Anthony Lee for this definition. I was literally yesterday on Menguchi's channel, so go check out Menguchi. Shout out Menguchi, one of our favorite players. He had Anthony Lee come on and do his deck profile of his top 4 worlds finish with his Golgari mid-range deck in Standard.
Yeah, we can link that too.
We can link that. We'll link that. He, in the beginning of the video, gave a great definition of a mid-range deck, the best definition I've heard, and I'm somebody who really enjoys mid-range decks and tries to play a lot of them, and this is easily the best definition I've heard. A lot of them are really unclear. Like, a lot of times when you hear players talk about mid-range, they're just like, oh, they're really about value. They're about 2 for 1 in your opponent. They're really just powerful standalone cards. It doesn't really build on synergy. Which, all of these things are definitely true, right? But not true of every mid-range deck. Like, that's not a cohesive strategy behind mid-range. Like, what is the mindset behind a mid-range deck? Like, when you're building a mid-range deck, those things don't give you anything to build off of, right? So what Anthony Lee said is that valuing versatility is first and foremost and critical to the strategy, and having an array of threats that makes opponents' interactions worse. So, for example, in the Isn't Murktide deck in Standard, or Standard Modern, things that answer an Isn't Murktide usually don't answer a Dragon Rage Channeler or a Ragavan very well, right? And all 3 of those cards can be problems by themselves. Yeah. Like, all 3 of those cards are powerful enough to win games by themselves, whether that be through the value they get or whatever, but all of those cards are really powerful, right? And the best way to describe the strategy of a mid-range deck is that mid-range decks sit in between an aggro and a control strategy, but can simultaneously be both at any given match or in any given set or game. So, for example, like, you can play you can keep hands that are super reactive that are nothing but kill spells and counters and blah blah blah, and play like a control deck if that's what the matchup calls for. Or you can keep hands that are a little bit more aggressive in aggressive matchups, or matchups where it's like a combo deck and you really need to put a clock on them.
Yep.
So there's a lot of cards in the deck that once we get into it, like, kind of fit those roles and whatever. And I guess that's the best way I can describe a mid-range deck. Mitchell, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, that's pretty accurate. It's like, when putting it into a sense of Pauper, it's like having a graveyard Archaeomancer threat versus a 3/3 indestructible land hitting you every turn.
Yeah.
And like, you can board into either of them, and that's what
makes it so strong and
makes
hard
it very strong to interact with.
What mid-range decks I think do really well, which is because like this was something I was thinking about today, is like Magic is such a different game compared to Pokemon because Pokemon is such a synergy-based game, right? Yep. Like, at the end of the day, the only way for you to win the game is your Pokemon doing damage and taking knockouts. Yep. And so, at the end of the day, that really limits how you build your deck. Obviously, there's, like, control decks and other stuff, but they're
those are, like, different.
way less viable because they do not support those because Pokemon's all about fun and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we won't get into that. But... Whereas in Magic, like, a lot more cards are more able to stand alone and be powerful and do, like, whatever they need to do to win games, right? Like, Magic is not as hardly synergy-based as Pokemon is. Like, synergy is everything in Pokemon.
Yeah,
like,
if you don't have synergy in Pokemon,
that's what really makes
screwed.
The deck is how powerful and synergistic and consistent the deck can be.
Yep.
That's really is the meta definer in Pokemon, whereas in Magic, I don't think that's the case at all. It's really about understanding a meta and how to build decks to answer those metas. Like, I mean, it's like that in Pokemon too, but there's a lot less room to work with, I guess, in terms of that regard. And I think mid-range decks do the best job of answering metagames and answering all kinds of strategies than any other style of deck does. Like, you could argue Control does that, sure, but Control struggles against hard aggro no matter what you do. Whereas, like, a deck like this, while you lose a lot of the, like, because the drawback of mid-range decks is, like, yeah, like, this all sounds great on paper. The big thing, though, is that by taking a strategy like this, you are taking away all your really, really, really high-end matchups and all your really, really, really low-end matchups. That is the trade-off, is that you become what everyone likes to call mid-range decks is the 50-50 deck, where every matchup you probably have a chance in, and in every matchup you probably have a chance to lose it. Like, that's just how the deck is designed. Like, you don't see the right things at the right time, you make the wrong plays or whatever, you're going to lose. Like, the margin of error is very thin with these kinds of decks. But anyway, that's way more of a description than I plan to do. But I guess we can go right into Jeskai Ephemerate and some of the things. So, I am going to be working off the fact that you hopefully have some sort of basis of knowledge of the decks and of the meta. If you don't, feel free to pull up Scryfall or MTG decks or whatever form of deck database you want to use, whatever your preferred one is, whether that's Goldfish, whatever. But I would seriously recommend pulling up the metagame, looking around a little bit at some of the decks, just some of the things they do. Pauper is a pretty straightforward format and what most cards and decks are trying to do. But yeah, so I'm gonna assume you have a baseline of what most Jeskai decks look like, and then I'm going to talk more specifics. So if you don't have that, please go check out Decklists online, get yourself a little familiated, and we'll go from there. But the first thing I want to talk about is I think the thing that differentiates most lists is Skred or not. So for those of you who don't know what Skred is a 1 red instant that deals damage to a target creature based upon the amount of snow permanents you control. This is really easy to splash in the Jeskai deck because you just play snow basics and you play snow tap lands, dual lands, and you should be able to get to Skred fairly consistently and stuff, whatever. But a lot of, most lists are playing Skred at this point in the format, especially with, the increase in bigger threats like the Cosmic Serpent and, Tolarian Terror and all that.
Crazy.
Whereas it wasn't played so much so before. But, I don't know, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with Skred. When I've played it, it's very, very strong, and it just gets better and better as the game goes on, which most of the time your games are going to go long. But my issue with it is sometimes the volatility of it in the early game.
I personally, I think Skred's good, but I actually prefer Lightning Bolt because at the end of the day, you can hit face with it, where Skred you can't.
Yeah, well,
which I value a lot.
One thing I do want to note,
Skred is better in a more controlled deck because you can hit higher creatures.
The one thing I want to note though is that no list is playing just pure Skred.
Yeah,
you're still playing at least 2 or 3 bolts because again, one of the main ways this deck can win and win fast is once you get that Archaeomancer lockup, is you just bolt to face over and over and loop it. So it is kind of an important thing to have, but it's not end all be all. Like, you could not play Bolt and the deck would still be very strong. Like, it just adds another little extra layer that can matter in certain matchups and certain situations. But I think Skred just is better overall because again, it's more powerful, and like the thing with mid-range decks is like the raw power level of your cards need to be high no matter what. And I think Skred has a higher, potential than Lightning Bolt does.
Higher ceiling, lower floor.
Yeah, exactly. Higher ceiling, lower floor. And I think mid-range decks need to value that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Like, don't get me wrong, consistency is important and all that, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to answer everything, and Skred's a card that can scale to answer anything.
Yep.
So I think that's why Skred is probably pretty good. I still have it in my list right now. I don't plan on cutting it, even though I've had some thoughts, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And it's something that you as a player are going to have to mess around with and kind of figure out what you like, what you dislike. Because you could easily just play like 4 bolts to destroy evil and essentially get the same cover package, but it's way less consistent.
Yep. And
way less versatile. So that's why I haven't liked it over the Screds, personally. But the next thing to talk about that I think is another point of interest is Kenku Artificer versus Murmuring Mystic.
Love these cards.
So
good.
Both of those cards in the deck kind of act as like your closers or what most mid-range decks like to call the turning point.
Yep.
So there's a big concept with mid-range decks that once you kind of stabilize and shut down whatever your opponent's trying to do, like the early turns you just kind of disrupt or whatever, and then all of a sudden you drop some bomb or some card that's really powerful, and then you just try to turn the corner with it.
Yep.
And just you take that advantage by disrupting them a little bit, and the second you take that advantage, you try to never give it back and just win the game from there. It's a lot like, like decks that try to take the initiative, right?
Oh yeah.
This is you taking the initiative without the actual mechanic of it being there in a lot of ways. So what Kenku does is ETBs, you turn target artifact into a 3/3 flyer. I know what you're saying. Caden, there's no artifacts in your deck. What are you doing? You're crazy. 9 of your lands, at least in my list, 9 of them, most lists 8, can become 3/3 flying indestructible lands.
Yep.
That become just incredible beaters.
Yeah, it says non-creature artifact. That's the most important text about that card.
Right. That is a great bomb because what makes it so powerful in a deck like this is because, one, it can turn the corner and make you really aggressive really fast, just dealing 3 damage or 4 damage every turn out of nowhere. Or it can be a great defensive piece because 3/3 flying indestructible can pretty much wall any threat in the format.
It's indestructible.
It's indestructible.
So good.
So like Gurmag Anglers, Terrors, whatever, they just get walled.
And what's playing Trample in this format, man?
The Golgari control deck's the only deck.
That's it, yeah.
And like you just kill their
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So that's what makes Kenku so great. And then Murmuring Mystic also as well is just an incredibly powerful card that can both be used very defensively and very offensively. Because what it does, it's a 4-drop 1/5 that every time you play an instant or sorcery, you get a 1/1 flyer token, which is really powerful because this deck plays a ton of instants and you recur your instants a lot. So all of a sudden you're just just spitting out all these 1/1 flying bird illusions out of nowhere, and you can either use that to kill your opponent really really fast once you're taking the initiative, or again you can use it to just chump bodies, keep your opponent at bay, whatever it needs to be. That's why these cards are so powerful, because again they can be both on the offensive and defensive, which is really what mid-range decks value. So there's been a lot of different lists, especially recently, have just been cutting Kenku completely and just playing 2 Mystics. And there's been some lists that play 1 and then 2, or like playing 1 of each in the main board and then 1 Murmuring in the second. But the thing that I've seen the most common is that it's only 1 Kenku if there is Kenku, and it's 1 to 2 Murmuring Mystics, which is really interesting. And I was messing around with my list today before we started recording, and I was looking around at some stuff, and I definitely think a second Murmuring Mystic can be really powerful because it seems like even like if you go back and watch our tournament stuff, like my Mystics put in work and won me some very important games, and were like the turning point, which again is what it's supposed to do. But the Mystic can just be so powerful so fast, and like you think about the card like Ephemerate in your deck, that's 2 1/1s for 1 mana. That's also giving you other value with whatever you're blinking, which is just crazy powerful in a format like Pauper. So there's other bombs too that I've seen people try to mess around with and make work. Crimson Fleet Commodore, which is a 5/2 trampler for 4 that takes the Monarch when it enters the battlefield. I was playing this card for a while. It can be really, really powerful. The problem is that 2 toughness, man, is brutal.
That sucks.
And there's another bomb that works pretty much the exact same way, Goliath Giant, that takes the initiative instead of the Monarch, which is also an incredibly powerful keyword to take. That guy is like a 4/5, I think, for 5. Apologies, I probably should have knew this beforehand. But I think the problem with these cards is, like, to me, they just feel more win more. Like, they feel very win more to me. Like don't get me wrong, like, yeah, they can be your bomb to win the game, but it's like, I think I would rather just have a Kenku that can...
Paladin.
Yeah, so he's a 3/6. Like, I think the problem with these bombs specifically, like we were talking about, you have to be both offensive and defensive. Both of these cards, based on their toughness and power, have opposite problems, where one's a much better defensive option, and the other's a much better offensive option.
Yep.
And they don't do very well when they have to do the other part.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what makes Kenku and Murmuring so much better, is that they can do both really consistently, really well. no matter where you are in a game. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to mention quick, was like some of the different bomb options you have in the deck. I definitely think I have to try out the Goliath Giant better, like actually try it, because I feel like I'm undercrediting how powerful initiative can be.
Yeah, it's so good. And
but
the fact that you can keep flickering him too.
Yeah, but like there's always the fear though in a mid-range deck when you do something like Initiative and Monarch as one of your main win cons, is that if your opponent takes it back, they could just easily steal a game from you out of nowhere.
That is true.
And there are some certain situations where I've lost games because I've given that up out of nowhere and just kind of got screwed. But anyway, moving on. So another card that I wanted to highlight really fast was Fire and Ice, because this was a 4 of in every deck back in the day. So what Fire or Ice is that it's one of those old school half and half cards.
Yep.
Where you could play either half of the card at any time. And the Fire side is an instant for 1 and a red, and it deals up to 2 damage to any target. Or any amounts of targets, sorry. So you can pick 1 or 2 or 3, or well, you only have 2 damage, so I don't know, you can pick 3. But and then Ice is another instant, 1 in a blue this time, and it says tap target permanent, and then you draw a card. So what makes this card really, really nice in the deck is that you can either, kill little guys or kill one like kind of slightly bigger but still small guy with it, or you can tap a land down in their upkeep, which can then slow them down and buy you time, and it cantrips. The big thing about the Ice side is that it cantrips.
So good.
So it's just a really versatile card that can be really nice kind of to answer some different stuff and whatever, but most lists do not play it anymore in any amount. I've seen a few with 1 or 2, but it doesn't really see play anymore. And I think a big part of it is both the Lorien Reveal release and the Cast into Fire.
Lorien Reveal,
because those just kind of eat those slots.
Yeah.
Because like the Cast into Fire gives you the
gives you the shoot.
It gives you the Fire side. And while you lose the Ice side, you don't really play it for the Ice side. The Ice side is just another nice option to have if the Fire side isn't worthwhile in the matchup. So having something like Lorien over it, which just fixes your mana and is always consistently nice to have in the deck, I think is the reasoning why you don't see Fire and Ice anymore. But it's definitely a card to consider. Like, I definitely could see it being at least another, like, 2 of that could be powerful, but I think with Cast into Fire and where the meta is right now, it's just, Cast into Fire is just better than Fire and Ice. You need
Cast into Fire with
all the Infinity nonsense going around.
Crazy. There's so much of it.
So, yeah. So that was something I really wanted to mention really quick, because Andrea Mengucci's top 8 deck list from Pauper a few years ago was playing all 4. And I was like, man, that's crazy to think about. Like, that card's not in the deck anymore. I was
going to say, looking at lists today,
much different.
You get a lot of different coverage.
Yeah. So I think the final thing that I really want to talk about before I let Mitch take it over, because, I mean, I have some more notes on, like, sideboard cards and stuff, but we don't really need to get into that. Sideboarding, I think we should just have an episode dedicated
talking about sideboarding,
to building sideboarding, how you sideboard, blah, 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 because that is a really deep part of Magic
to have,
and I think it really separates the great players from the good players.
Yep.
But anyway, so I just wanted to touch quickly that this deck, in like every mid-range deck for the most part, there's going to be flex slots. Meaning that there are cards that you really can cut and or change based on personal preference and personal like meta kind of expectations, whatever you want to call it. So personally, where in my list I'm playing 2 Brainstorms, I would consider that a flex option. The main board deck, Dawnbringer and Cass and Lose Focus, I think are also all flex slots. So there's 5 flex slots in my opinion in my Jeskai deck. And you can play a ton of different stuff in this spot. Like I said, you could play Fire and Ice if you really wanted. You could play more Burns, like more Bolts if you wanted. Or you could play Destroy Evil, which is not currently in my list. You could play more Cast into Fires, I guess, if you really wanted. But personally, I've found that having Brainstorm is really good. Having that additional cantripping and / card filtering, because again, this is a mid-range deck. You really want to get into the cards that are right for whatever you're playing against or whatever situation you're into. So having something like Brainstorms and Preordains is really, really important. And what makes Brainstorm even nicer over Preordain, in my opinion, is that you can do it in response to something on their turn and then still find a counterspell and be able to use it.
That is true, yeah.
So it gives you a lot of flexibility in that regard. Play it to proactively to try to go find counter magic, or you can save it until your turn to go find land drops or whatever you're looking for.
I mean, also, you could, if you don't like the 2 cards, you can land cycle them away, which is good with Brainstorm.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think a big part why you weren't seeing Brainstorms in lists before Lorien Revealed is because you didn't have any way to shuffle them out.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you had Cleansing Wildfire, but like...
That's like not the same, though.
It's not the same.
Lorien's
because
so
you can't do it at
absurd.
instant speed. Because if you have 2 mana up, you can go Brainstorm, Lorien Revealed, and get a perfect Brainstorm going into your turn, which is just like perfect Brainstorms are always good. I'm a big advocate of perfect Brainstorm, good. But anyway, so yeah, I would say overall, like, this is a pretty standard mid-range deck. I mean, you are playing a little bit of a combo in it, which does kind of add a wrinkle to it because you have all these combo pieces that take up slots. But those combo pieces don't take away from the versatility of the deck.
Yeah.
Like, Mold Drifter is just good value, good card draw for the deck, and then Archaeomancer just gets back some of the best spells in your deck. So it's like, it's not like they're like, oh, if I see the standalone and I don't have the Ephemerate, it's bad. Like, they're still good. They're still good to have.
Yeah.
So I would say the deck is really tricky to play overall. I mean, again, you're playing a 50-50 deck, and truly covering for everything is impossible, too. Like, that's one thing I want to mention with mid-range decks. Like,
you can't
you're never,
everything.
ever going to fully cover for everything. Try to cover as much as the main decks you expect to see, and you have good game plans into them, but, like, you're not going to cover for everything.
And that is always
like,
dependent
for
with your
example,
local meta.
like, yeah, like, when I went to locals, and I played against... Well, I didn't play against them, but when I saw Jund, Urza Tower, like Urza Land Tron, I was just like...
Didn't expect that, did you?
I was like, well, I have no text for that, but I have Cleansing Wildfire.
You have Cleansing Wildfire, yeah.
But it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't cover for everything. Like, at the end of the day, that's why these decks value versatility so much, is so that, again, even when those situations come up where you're not prepared for it, hopefully you have some sort of tools in the matchup to deal with it. I would say the biggest weaknesses of this deck is that with the format being so aggressive with, like, Synth, Burn, and all that, it definitely can have those tricky, I would say, runs where you just, like, get blown out the first few rounds at a tournament and then you're just screwed because you hit all the aggros and you just have bad draws or whatever. Like, it definitely has its moments. And again, another thing to mention too is, like, this is a 50-50 deck, so you can also just lose to anything. Like, even if you're prepped for the matchup, even if you have a good cards in the matchup, you can still lose.
You can still
because that's
lose.
just kind of how it works. Like, that's just how mid-range decks work. It really comes down to how you play and how you respond to different stuff, and that's what I love about it the most. Because like what I was telling Mitchell, the other night, like, Manguchi always says, if you lose with his Murktide or if you lose with a mid-range deck, like, you probably did something wrong. Yeah. Like, more often than not, like, probably like 99% of the time, well, maybe not 99, but like 90 to 80% of the time, there's probably something you could have done differently to win that game.
Yep.
And it might not be completely obvious, that play, in the moment, but, like, with the time, experience with the deck, whatever, like, you'd realize, like, whoa, like, I need to think, like, 8 turns ahead to figure something out like that. But that's the difference between winning and losing, right? So it's very tough, very punishing, but it's a lot of fun and it feels very rewarding to win with. So, yeah, that's my...
From playing against it a ton, it looks very fun to pilot. I've piloted it a few times. My brain hurts.
Yeah, it is some 4D chess sometimes.
Yes. My favorite deck is Rakdos Madness. This deck has fallen off. Because it's just
go rap. Sorry, I love Mitchell's notes.
Yeah. So Madness, the Madness deck is based around the Madness mechanic. Obviously, if you don't know what that is, if you're to discard a card, you can pay a cost instead while you're discarding it and play that card. And notably, that cheats timing restrictions. So you can do creatures, you can do sorceries, and with blood tokens. They're a thing from Crimson Vow. I can put text on the screen later or whatever.
Blood tokens are pretty straightforward.
It's just an artifact. 1 mana tap,
you
discard, then draw.
Yeah, you just loot.
It's very good.
It's very solid.
You play a ton of draw spells like Faithless Looting. It has discarded cards on the card, and you're drawing a ton of cards. It's so good. It's so good.
Faithless Looting is nuts.
And then if you have an empty hand and you Faithless Looting, listen, I'm not saying that it's a good idea. But if you're really down bad, sometimes you get miracles. 2 alms.
Yeah, sometimes miracles
like
happen.
It happens. Other really important draw spells is Sign in Blood. I've killed so many people with Sign in Blood. It's so
how many
good.
times I've been playing Jeskai Ephemerate, and I'm a turn away from stabilizing on this little scrub, and this man just looks me dead in the eye and goes, "Sign in Blood, targeting you," and I die. Too many.
It's so good. It's such a good spell. And also, it's just, like, I just need cards in my hand.
Yep.
If I'm in a really good spot, I go Sign in Blood you. Hopefully they don't have a response.
Yeah.
Deadly Dispute's also really important. Getting a treasure token and drawing cards.
Dude, Deadly Dispute...
The mana fixing is so good, to mention...
Here's my take. Even as an Ephemerate player, I'm going to say this. Sign in Blood... Or not Sign in Blood, sorry. Deadly Dispute is the best value one-off card in the whole format.
It's
Hands
so
down,
good, dude.
no questions asked. Because, like, Ephemerate takes a lot of setup. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with it. Deadly Dispute, you just do it. You get 2 cards. You get your treasure. You're vibing, dude. The vibes are immaculate. And if you do it with a Ichor Wellspring, that's Ancestral Recall, but you get one of the mana as a temporary mana back, not the permanent mana. It's not 1 mana, draw 3. It's 2 mana, draw 3, make a treasure. Broken.
It's so good. So yeah, you really rely on blood tokens, and we have a lot of blood makers in the deck, like Blood Fountain, 1 black, make a blood, ETB. It also is recursion later. You get Voldaren Epicure. It's a little pinger. You can also make bloods. Really good.
Pings for 1 ETBs makes a blood. Just really solid for a 1-drop.
Vampire's Kiss, 1 and a black. Target player loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Make 2 bloods, which is 2 bloods goes a long way.
Yeah, Vampire Kiss does a lot more work than I think people give it credit for.
You're playing cards to remove creatures. You can play Lightning Bolt. You can Bolt the Face, which is way more common. This is an aggro deck, also notably.
Yeah. So like,
it's like deck. It's aggro grindy in the late. It's really weird.
It is kind of a mid-range deck in some
regards.
Kind of, yeah. But I would say it's more on the aggressive end.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a true control package that it can go into, but it does have a lot of interaction in terms of burn and kill spells. It doesn't have a lot of like actual control elements, but it has a lot of the like. Just enough to keep it afloat if things don't go well in the aggro plan.
Yeah, a new card that I was monkeying with that I haven't seen in a ton of decks is Bone Shards.
That's nuts to me.
It's
How
so
is Bone
good.
Shards not in more lists?
It just wasn't that I looked at.
That's so crazy.
1 black, discard a card or sack a permanent. You destroy a creature.
It's just
and in Madness,
good.
you get to discard cards, so you get to play the cards. It's so good.
Yeah, it's just a 2-for-1.
Bone Shards is insane. Grimog Angler, that's like your big bomb that you need to start closing the game.
That's like the payoff for all of these cards you're discarding and stuff. Like, even if you don't necessarily get to play them all, you just get to turbo out.
You get to bring out Angler
really
for 1
fast.
black so quick.
And then, even if they die, you're like, I don't care, I have a Blood Fountain, I'll crack and get it back, play it for 1, no big deal.
Yeah, you get that recursion. You can do Macabre Waltz, which is a 1 of I put in, 2 mana. You get 2 cards out of your discard, 2 creature cards out of your discard pile. Then you discard a card after.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to grab a Kitchen Imp and an Angler. I'm going to discard my Kitchen Imp.
Play my Angler.
Then go Angler.
8 power for like 5 mana out of nowhere.
It's so good.
Or 4 mana.
It's a crazy spell. You play other burn, Fire Temper, Alms of the Vein. I'm assuming you guys probably have a good idea of what the deck does.
Again, pull up Scryfall or whatever database you want to use to get some background on the deck if you don't have any.
Yeah, that's very good. Play Kitchen Up. What? What you looking at?
Value Town Population Me.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So you're playing a ton of Madness cards to try and hit face as fast as you can. In the sideboard,
it's pretty standard.
You get to, it's just a pretty basic sideboard.
Your black-red staples of sideboards, like your
Duress, Upbraid, Smash the Smithereens.
The one thing that I'd say that's like interesting and unique to the sideboard for this deck is Thrill.
Yeah, I put Thrill in the sideboard.
Yeah, so if you don't know what Thrill is, it's a 2-mana instant. You discard a card to draw 2 cards.
Yep.
I mean, that doesn't need any explanation. That's why you did.
Yeah, no, the deck's very aggro. If you get a really good start,
they're
just picking up their cards.
Things, dude. I've gotten killed very fast with this deck.
Yep. And like, if you have a dead hand and you're not finding lands because you kept a bad hand, hey, you could just discard for hand size and then play your card.
I think one thing that I want to mention is like the way I think about Rakdos Madness is that it's the Boros Synth deck just worse.
Yeah, it is.
Like at this point, like the Boros Synth deck is just a better
so
version.
Many tools. It is so many tools.
It's just the better version of this deck. But don't get me wrong, the Rakdos deck is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And I think one thing that I guess maybe could help the deck too is like if you get snuff outs, that might help a little bit. But like, I don't think that's the issue. Like I don't know what the issue is. I feel like it just has problems just getting enough over the hump.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because of the matchups we play into it usually, because we do play a lot of like grindy decks. And then like you're playing against Borosynth, which is kind of just a better version of your deck, respectfully.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but it's a lot of fun. I've played it before. Mitch has let me play this list. It's
fun.
Super fun, man.
Yeah. So like when you're in the games, the curve usually goes turn 1, Blood Fountain or Voldaren Epicure. Turn 2, you're like sign-in blooding yourself, or you're gonna Deadly Dispute and get some more value, or Faithless. And then turn 3, you go Faithless Looting 2 Madness cards and just try to get in there as fast as possible.
Or you go Angler.
Or Angler, yeah, if you have that much in your discard pile, I guess.
Yeah, you could just drop Anglers turn 3.
It's very good.
Yeah, the deck is super cool. It has a lot of like versatility. Like you can do a lot of different stuff with this deck for whatever you got to do. But I think it just has some like consistency issues, some kind of matchup issues. Like I think it's just poorly placed in the meta right now.
Anything with a counterspell cucks this deck. It's not even close. You counter a draw spell, it's game over.
Do you not have any Pyroblasts?
They're probably in the sideboard. I just didn't write it down.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably need some Pyroblasts, probably like 3 or 4.
But yeah, it's like if you get countered, one of your draw spells countered, and you're like 2 cards in hand, you're like, man, really needed those. This sucks, and you can't do anything. There's no there's no recovering after that.
Yeah, I
think
the biggest problem with this deck, you have to keep the cogs of the machine constantly going, and if at any point the machine gets stopped, you're going to be in a real bad way. Whereas I think with the synth deck, you can't really say that. Because it has so much more like raw, powerful burn with like the Thopter, what is it, Thopter Foundry?
Yeah, or
Helix. Thopter Helix and
Lightning
stuff like
Helix or whatever. No, that's not it. Foundry Helix.
Jeez. Like you have just so much more like high end stuff where it's like, yeah, if my engine gets shut down, I still have these cards to rely on to like kind of get me through. Whereas like
Rakdos is like,
Rakdos deck
I'm sitting with a kitchen imp in my hand. I guess I'll play
it for 4.
Yeah, like these cards aren't like good standalone, which is like not good.
No.
But when they work together,
when it works, it
pops
works,
off.
Man.
Like
it feels like a Pokemon deck to me, where it's just like when it does its thing, it does its thing. When it doesn't, it does. Like this just feels like Mutagenesis deck to me. Like it does its thing or it doesn't.
That's really fair, actually.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool deck. It's a lot of fun. It was really big in Pauper a few years ago.
Yeah.
It was kind of like one of the main big best decks. I think it was right when that Angie deck came out was when it really got top tier.
Probably, yeah. Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah, Modern Horizons 2 had a ton of madness support.
Kitchen Imp.
Yeah.
And all of them.
But yeah, it's a really cool deck. It's a lot of fun. I think it's a great deck if you're someone just getting into Pauper and you're just looking to have a lot of fun with it and play a really fun deck that has a lot of really cool cards and cards that I think no matter what we'll see play in the format, like Deadly Dispute, no matter what's going to see play, Sign in Blood, Duress, even if like all the madness stuff, even if you like buy the deck and then you're like, I'm not really feeling the madness stuff anymore, you still have all the great black and red staples that you can make something out of it. You know what I mean? Like you can take it in something. So yeah, it's a really cool deck, and I hope to see it more in the like potential meta someday. Like
maybe when we go to Karlov Manor.
Yeah, I was gonna say once we get some more madness support, it could definitely come back. It could definitely come back. It just needs a little bit more, a little bit more.
Madness needs a lot to happen. Like what we need is a draw engine that's way more consistent, and then it'll be good.
I also think it has.
But for now, I also
think it just needs some better threats.
Yeah.
Like outside of Imp and Angler, like you ain't got nothing.
Nope.
Like which is like not stellar.
I mean, you can play
that guy that Alex was playing in the tournament that for 2 black 2/4 it's like basically Death Touch.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't feel like enough.
I was gonna say I don't really like that card either. It's like fine.
It's just not enough though.
No.
I think something I want to add that's been really funny is like every time we've gone to record this, Mitchell's been like, "Oh, I'm too busy with this or that," which is like totally valid. Like it's midterms for us, so it's a really chaotic time in the school year. But he's like, I've been dealing with some stuff, and then today he hits me up and he's like, "Hey, do you want to record?" And I'm like, "Man, that's so funny. The day you hit me when I'm feeling the burnout really bad, you hit me up." But here we are, because I'm a trooper. So here we are.
He went through it, man.
I'm just here. So yeah.
I told him we could postpone it.
No, absolutely not. The boys need the content. But
Alex needs the content.
Alex, our one listener. I know you need that content, baby. Actually, shout out Aaron. Aaron's been listening to this too.
Oh, word?
One of my dear friends. Shout out Aaron.
The Rakdos deck just kind of dies after a while. Like,
yeah.
The cards are, like, good alone. Something I was playing the sideboard before because I wasn't playing Bone Shards because that was before I had Bone Shards. I was playing Terminal Agony.
Oh,
it's like it's not good, but it's
terminate
fine.
if you madness it.
Yeah, it's 2 black and a red, destroy target creature, and its madness cost is black and a red.
So it's just terminate.
So it's it's bad.
But it's not good.
It's bad.
Yeah, Bone Shards is just way better. If you're listening to this and you're a Rakdos player, please just play Bone
Actually,
Shards.
You know that there was what was the red downshift? Was it Blood Aspirant? What's
are you talking about the evoke creature?
No, I'm talking about this guy. Blood Aspirant. Whenever you sack a permanent, put a 1/1 on him. He's a 1/1 for 1. Or 2.
Dude, that looks like what you need.
Yeah, this is very
That looks like the bomb that just like builds up over time.
I've been trying to put this in the deck.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, but we haven't been playing Pauper recently.
That's because we've been busy. And the time we do have, we spend talking about Pauper instead of playing Pauper.
Honestly, I'd rather do this.
Yeah.
Well,
we could jam some games after this, maybe.
Do you have your deck?
I brought my cards.
Oh, word.
Why wouldn't I bring my
cards?
All right, boys. I know But anyway.
I mean, yeah. Here's I'm just gonna mention some things in my note. I did the example of Faithless Looting. Drop 2 Madness cards, so you go -1 by playing Faithless Looting.
Yeah, one thing to note about this deck, and I think this is an important topic to cover just for Magic players in general, because I think especially a lot of Commander players don't realize this, is cards like Faithless Looting, Thrill, like, they're not card advantage spells. Just because they say draw 2 cards, they're not card. Because think about it this way: you have 7 cards in your hand. You go to Thrill. You discard a card from your hand. You're at 5 cards in hand. You draw 2 cards. You go back to 7. You
7.
Net neutral. It's card filtering, not card advantage. That is a huge difference.
It's very important.
So every time in the Rakdos deck, you play a card that you're not madnessing or is getting you to draw discard for madness, you're net negativing.
Yep.
That's something you have to keep in mind.
That's why that's like really bad.
That's why keeping up the tempo and like being very, very aggressive is important. And that's why you can't really play like the true mid-range style.
Yep.
Because you're not gonna have enough cards. Like the thing about mid-range decks is they need to win the card advantage in some capacity. Whether it's actually just outpacing them in terms of card draw, or if it's 2-for-1ing, or whatever way you take card advantage. But every mid-range deck has some element where they take away card advantage, and this deck does not have it, and that's why it's not a mid-range deck in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot of situations where you go down in cards that you have the potential to go up, but like there's most of the time
this deck is super high
neutral
ceiling.
or down.
Yeah, the thing about this deck is super high ceiling, super low floor. That's
the
what you have to
is
expect
so
with
low.
this deck. This is a deck that like if you go to a Pauper tournament, like a serious Pauper tournament, and you bring this, like I don't think it's a bad play, but what you're saying is I'm gonna draw really hot all day and hit good matchups, which is not a bad strategy to have going into a tournament. I think we should take a day or an episode just talking about like metagaming for tournaments and like mindsets you should have going into tournaments, because I think that's something that a lot of players don't understand, and it's something that has taken me a long time. And I still don't think I have down fully. Otherwise, I'd put up better Pokemon results, because I know I have the skill. It's just I'm a horrible metagamer, and I'm a horrible like overthinker when it comes to that stuff, and then I just screw myself before it even matters. Before the tournament even starts, I screw myself.
I was gonna say, like card games, it matters what happens in the game, but like also
at the end of the day, man, just play your cards, bro. Like
cards are cards.
Also, like I'm a big advocate of always playing like because so many people focus when they're prepping for tournaments about, I guess this is just turning into a tournament prep rant, but we got the time. I mean, it's whatever. But anyway, so many players are so focused on what's the right meta game call, what's the right call, what's the right call. Here's the deal: if you don't know how to pile the best call, it doesn't matter. If you like, think about it this way: you could like, I would rather be someone that shows up with a deck I'm consistent with and like feel comfortable with, and just saying, okay, if I hit bad matchups or whatever all day, it is what it is. At least I then have the potential to play out of it because I probably know the matchup better than them.
Yeah.
But if you say, okay, I'm going to play the best deck or whatever the best call is I think it is, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and then I hit bad matchups, you're just going to lose. Like, you're just going to lose. Like, if you don't know what you're doing with the deck, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you could sit and spend a month prepping for a tournament and figure out what the right 60 is and the right meta call, but if you don't know how to pilot it, who cares? Like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you really need to be able to, like...
I think it's so much more about practicing and getting comfortable with
Yeah.
whatever deck. Because, like, Anthony Lee was talking about this, too. Like, he was talking about, like, when pros approach Standard, like, yeah, they're going to try to find the best meta call or whatever, but at the end of the day, they're just going to pilot whatever they feel the most comfortable with. Like, they're going to... Whatever games they put the most amount of time into, or, like, whatever deck they put the most amount of time into or feel the best about, they're just going to play that. Like, they're not going to, like... screw themselves out of the tournament before it even begins by trying to overthink it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe some pros do, but a lot of the like top pros, when they talk about it, like that's not what they do. And the thing is too, is like top pros can get away with the mindset of, oh, I'm just going to play whatever the best deck is. Like I'm going to spend all my time because they have their skill to pilot it regardless of how much practice they have, because they're that good at Magic. Like, let's be real here. Me and you are not that good at Magic. Like, let's just be real here, okay? Like, I think I'm a good player. I think I'm a decent player. But, like, I'm not good enough where it's just like, yeah, I can just show up to any tournament, play whatever, and win. Like, no. Like, that's not how it works. Like,
yeah,
you got to put in the time and the reps, really learn your deck, understand what you're trying to do in every matchup, what's the right decision in every situation, and go from there. Like, I don't know. That's my rant. That's my TED Talk.
Sounds good.
I just see so many players do this, and it's just the wrong way to approach it unless you're a top-level pro. Like, it's just the complete wrong way to approach it.
Yep. You really need to put your reps in, get your deck understanding to, like, a T.
And, like, also, like, I understand that, because, like, listen, I'm a Spike. I understand you want to do well, and I understand when you want to, because, like, rationally speaking, right, it makes sense to be like, well, I want to put myself in the best position to win objectively. Rationally in your head, that sounds right? But this is this isn't something where it's just like it's X's and O's. Like at the end of the day, you're the one piloting it, and that creates variables, and that creates a level of skill gap that will become apparent.
So many things can go well or wrong
Exactly.
in a game.
Like when something like card games, right? Like it's a strategy based game. So your strategy is really, hopefully, if the game is designed well, looking at you, Pokemon, is what drives winning or losing. Right?
Yeah.
Pokemon, that is not the case, but that's a story for another time.
Pokemon's a whole different beast, man.
You just want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! The with cute creatures instead of like anime ones. Welcome to Pokemon, dude. Congrats. Welcome to the club. It sucks. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know. I went on a huge tangent, as I warned everyone in episode 1.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, play what you're comfortable with. Enjoy the games. And if you don't succeed, then whatever. It's just a game of cardboard at the end of the day. Like,
at the end of the day, we're playing with cardboards with
like,
imaginary rules.
Yeah, like unless you're actually a pro and your living is dependent on this, then don't take
different.
it so deep. And also, like, you're just not on a pro's level where you can just pick up any deck and do well. Like, just don't get into that habit or mindset.
That's also why we're talking about our favorite decks, not the best decks.
Right, because, like, I'm just not knowledgeable
circle.
on them. Like, listen, can I probably explain Burn to you? Yeah, Burn's straightforward. Yeah. But it's like Borosynth, I wouldn't feel comfortable fully explaining. Like, I'm sure I could give you a decent...
Yeah.
But, like, I can't give you this real juicy details and, like, the things that differentiate you from making the right decisions and making the wrong decisions like I come with Jeskai and Ephemerate.
Yeah. It's very important.
Yeah. What I want to share is that I'm a Korean American. For those of you who don't, like, actually know me in person, which probably most people who are listening to this do. But if this ever gets... if this ever blows up and...
Yeah, people go back in time. Episode 2.
Fun fact, I'm a Korean American. And my grandma immigrated here when she was 16. I just thought that was something I'd share because that's something unique to me, I guess.
Yeah.
Another thing, too, I guess, is that I'm a psychology major, if anyone cares. So I originally was a marketing major when I came to Whitewater. I decided to switch. I went into psychology because I would rather use my psychological skills instead of gaslighting people into buying products for companies to actually help them and enjoy their lives and hopefully find fulfillment.
Weird.
How bizarre. It's almost like I don't want to be a corporate asshat for the rest of my life. How bizarre.
How weird.
How bizarre.
How strange.
Could I probably been stupid successful at it because I've had a ton of success in the field and not trying to brag or whatever, but it's like my parents looked at me like I was crazy when I told them that. And I was like, yeah, because the way I saw it was like, it's going to get real deep real fast, but the way I saw it was like when I'm 70 years old and retired and looking back on my life, I don't want to have to regret the things I did to make money and rather feel fulfilled by the things I did to make money. So
it's very important.
Yeah, so... there's something too, I guess.
Words.
That's neat. Also, I love basketball. Bucks and 6. This is the Dame season, baby. Dame got traded to us like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I tried to mention it on our original take of the second episode, but we had to cut it because it was the wrong subject and the audio file got corrupt.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why this has taken so long too. Was we did record,
have episode 2.
And it was actually a set review, and it got corrupted. So we were like, screw it, we'll just start over and do favorite decks.
Yeah.
That's
why we don't
thing.
record on Chromebooks.
Yeah, the Chromebook, rest in peace. He got his one chance and failed.
Yep, he tried.
He tried, man. We gave him an A for effort. He tried.
I don't know about A.
Yeah, well, we were being generous today.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, so I'm a huge sports guy. Football, baseball, basketball, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers, Packers.
I'm a hockey boy.
Yeah, he's a hockey guy.
Yeah.
Hockey's out of my realm of expertise.
That's the only thing I like, really. so when it comes to sports.
Maybe one day we could have a fun little spin-off day where we do sports talk.
Oh, God.
And just talk about sports.
I would just go, yeah.
I think it actually would be interesting to talk about the differences in mindset of like card game and strategy players versus like an actual athlete. Because there are some key differences there, and I think it's really interesting to discuss. Maybe you guys won't find that interesting. Maybe I'm just a psychology loser, but, I think that's interesting. So I guess comment and let me know if you find that interesting, or just comment, Caden, you're a moron, shut up.
We'll know what Alex will do either way.
He's just going to tell me I'm a moron. Because that's how he shows his love. It's okay, Alex. I know you love me if you've gotten this far, which you probably haven't. But
well, that's okay.
Well, hey, that's okay, champ.
Maybe he's on the way to class.
Yeah, maybe you're listening to this on the way to class.
I'm shaking my head no. But that's besides the
point. Didn't have to do him like that.
Well, listen, he's my brother. I know him.
Yeah.
Well, he might. You never know.
Either way, I guess... Why don't you talk a little bit about your major?
About my major? Yeah. Music education. Always been wanting to...
He's a little musical singy boy.
I'm a little musical singy boy. I've gotten a ton of awards for singing. I got a National School Choral Award.
Yeah, that's okay, I guess.
All right, man. I did choir for like 8 years, show choir for 6 years.
Oh, even worse.
I did theater for 4, band for 8.
Yeah, so all you need to know is that this kid has no life. All he does is sing and play cards.
That's actually very real.
Yeah. And all I do is play cards and watch sports.
But yeah, pretty much always knew I wanted to be a teacher. And then I kind of did a bunch of courses in high school and found out that I liked math and music. And there's a lot of math in music, so that just makes so much sense.
Which I don't think a lot of people think about.
No, there's so much math in music. It's literally insane. I could talk about it for
because if you think
hours.
about it, right, like so much of music is timing, and that in and of itself is a form.
Let
of
alone
math.
the literal foundation of music is based on.
Well, yeah,
math.
but like also too like timing and things like that. At the end of the day, like that is internal math. Like like that is subconscious math that you're doing to keep that timing. And yeah, a lot of it's built by muscle memory, but still, like when you're first learning that tempo or whatever, it is a lot of math.
Yes, it's...
And this is coming from somebody who barely knows crap about music, okay? I did trumpet for 2 years in middle school and said, screw music. Music is the worst.
No, I love music.
And then left.
It's so
Promptly
good.
went back to being a sports kid.
Yeah, no, I have always been a music kid. But yeah, that's just kind of a little tidbit about me.
The first Commander deck I ever built was in high school. And it was dinosaurs, because another fun fact about Caden is that Caden wanted to be a paleontologist as he grew up, but then his dad shut that down really fast. That's a trauma story for another time. But anyway, so I really like dinosaurs, and when I found out that Magic had dinosaurs, that's what convinced me to start playing Magic. Yeah. Because I was so skeptical, because I was a Pokemon boy for life. I was loyal, and they did nothing.
Love dinosaurs.
And they did me nothing but dirty. And then I found out that Magic had dinosaurs, and I was like, sign me up. And so I built Gisath, which... That ROI turned out quite well, because I bought it for $12. It's now a $50 card.
It's about to go back down, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, it is an alt art printing, so it's like a...
They're probably going to do a regular art printing too, man. Or new art.
Maybe. But I still think like the original will be worth a decent amount.
I'd hope so.
The lowest it's gone down in like the last like 3 years is 30, so...
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Which is still double my investment. Anyway... But yeah, so I built a really crappy dinosaur deck. I actually just revived it. I found a bunch of the cards at home, and I was like, this is a perfect low power deck.
You better get the Velociraptor deck and take pieces out of there. Come on, man.
Probably will. But I guess the next deck from there, that was like my first real deck. It was not real when it first was made, but then I just slowly but surely turned it into a very high power, almost CDH level deck. Brago, King Eternal. Which most of you are probably cringing right now hearing that. But when I was looking for a commander, I was like, I just want someone that looks cool and does something cool. And I thought blinking was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, so I could get double Dedenes? That was a Pokemon reference. But I was like, I can get double ETBs? I'm like, that's broken.
So good.
I'm like, that's so cool. And so I made a Brago deck, and then slowly but surely it turned into a Blink/Artifact combo control deck. It's a lot of fun. I love it so much.
We have some high power pods here and there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe eventually we could get a setup to record Commander.
We could definitely record some Commander.
That'd be interesting.
That'd be fun. But yeah, and then I guess the last deck I'll note that is like really notable to me was my Boros Superwalkers deck.
Oh, yeah.
Because my store staff at work and I spent a lot of time on it. Shout out Ben and Squishy. They helped me a lot. Squishy, fun fact, was on the Command Central podcast. That was one of the #1 podcasts in Commander for quite a while. So I'm sure there's some of you podcast listeners, if you come back and listen to
I believe he also has a podcast, doesn't he?
They ended it. That was Command Central.
Oh, no!
They released episode 350 and ended it.
Oh, that makes sense, though. I mean, that is a lot.
No, they were, like, really successful, like, actually.
That's
like,
awesome.
They genuinely blew up. They were #1 on Apple for a Commander podcast for quite a while.
That's sick.
So, yeah, if you're podcast listeners and you ever listen to the Command Central, I know Squishy. Squishy's one of my... I don't want to call him a friend because it's weird because he's like way older than me.
He's a friend.
He's like a friend, but like I view it more as like a father-son relationship. Like he's really taught me a lot of stuff in life and has really been a really big support in my life. So I just want to give some love to Squishy, and same with Ben too. Ben's been a really big support in my life and he's taught me a lot about myself and being a good human being. So shout out Ben.
Maybe he'll listen to the PaupCast.
Probably not because he's such a
Pauper.
little spiky boy that modern or bust. So
yeah.
Which. I mean, that's cool, I guess. That's what you're into. But, yeah, so I have a Boros Superwalkers friend. Mila, Crafty Companion, is the commander. It's just a lot of fun.
It's just walkers.
It's really powerful. It's a lot of fun. It's not fun to play against, but
No, it's fun.
But yeah,
it's fun watching you do cool things, but then you go blind obedience, and I cringe so hard.
The only thing that makes the deck, like, the one thing that bothers me about the deck is, like, it's really powerful and really strong, but it just does not win games fast. Like,
Nope.
I'll take over a game, but it'll still take me, like, 5 more turns to win it. And
Yep.
it's like, I don't know how to fix that, so I'm gonna have to try to
more
fix
win
that.
cons.
I mean, there is a good amount of win cons, though. Or, like, things that should be win cons, and they just don't quite work out that way. Anyway, I might do some mess. I gotta mess around with it anyway, because the Jeskai Walker deck came out, and there's a bunch of good walkers in there.
Dude, Commodore Gruff, oh my god.
That guy's a monster.
I want to buy him. I want
guy's a
that deck
beast.
so bad, but then it's like, you have your deck, and I don't know. You know?
I thought about turning it into Jeskai, just so I can play that guy.
You do love Jeskai.
I love Jeskai. It's my favorite color combo.
Did you see the new Narset from March of the Machine
Exile
Aftermath?
What is it? Something Exile, right?
Yeah.
That's the one I was gonna build.
It's so good.
I've been looking at Enlightened Exile. I think is what it's called. Enlightened Exile. I've been looking at Jeskai Commanders because I really want to build one because Jeskai is my favorite color combo, and I used to have a Jeskai deck. It was the cycling deck with Gavi.
Oh, you had that?
But some stuff happened to it that I won't mention on air.
Oh, word. Yeah.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But yeah, the Narset's very cool.
Yeah, so it's a 4-drop 3/4 for Jeskai and 1. Creatures you control have prowess, which is crazy. And then whenever it attacks, exile target non-creature non-land card with mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard and copy it. And you may cast a copy without paying its mana cost.
Yeah, from a graveyard.
Yeah, so anybody's.
Anybody's is so good.
Yeah, so I would literally just make Jeskai good stuff control with this deck.
It would be fun.
And yeah, it'd just be awesome. It's kind of like the mindset I have of my Raffine deck right now, where it's just Esper good stuff. It's just good stuff with a Legends sub-theme. It's just good stuff.
Yeah.
How is it going to win games? No clue. But am I going to have a blast playing it? Hell yeah.
Yeah. My favorite commander deck. Well, let's go with my first. My first commander deck was Shanna, Sisei's Legacy.
Let's go.
And it was a cheap...
Is that the 5-color one, or is that the...
It's a green-white.
Is that the Selesnya one?
Yeah, its power is equal to the number of creatures you control.
Oh, it's that one, yeah. Okay.
Yep. So I made like a weird token 1/1 counter pile.
Oh, that's so cute.
It was my first commander deck.
To be fair, that is a very like first commander deck.
Yep.
Is like Selesnya token counters.
I've been thinking about
putting it back together,
remaking it, and just make it pure tokens.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Would be fun.
Token decks are fun.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just like a lot of BS in Selesnya.
What was your second deck? I don't know if I remember.
My second deck
Yeah.
was Rada, I think is Air Dekeld or something like that. It's,
the Gruul one that
it's
makes
the Gruul that you can play lands off the top.
It's that one.
And I made Commander Landfall, and then that promptly disappeared because it's bad. It was so bad. I didn't have any good cards in that deck. From there, I went to Jorn.
Oh, yeah.
When it attacks you and tap all snow permanents.
Yeah, that deck was crazy.
It's so good.
It was so bad, but the commander was so good it made it okay.
Yeah. The deck was atrocious.
Which is a real theme of Mitchell's decks. Mitchell really likes making bad piles, but with really powerful commanders that make it work.
Yeah. Like, a really notable deck in my commander career, Oswald. Oswald Fiddlebender.
Oswald, dude.
It's so initially it was just like artifact pile good stuff. So I was just like, yeah, I want to tutor for Howling Mine. And then people would let it happen. And then
that's the most Mitchell thing.
Yeah, I want to tutor for Font of Mythos. It's just Howling Mine times 2. And then it was just me doing that. And eventually, I worked into non-bows for no reason. Like, I was like, wait, does this combo? And yeah, it did.
I mean, that's kind of what happens when you have Birthing Pod on a commander for artifacts.
Yeah, it's so good. And
yeah,
then
for those of you who don't know what
now
Oswald
it's CDH.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
I remember when you had grafted exoskeleton in there, and that would make me rage so bad.
Yep.
But now it's like actual true combo.
Yeah,
it's
combo.
You've got the rings and basalt.
Like I've killed people turn
Mystic
2
Force
multiple
Sensei.
times.
You have a ton of.
Yeah.
You've got the guy that's like every time it gets equipped, it gets +1/+1, and you have Greaves, so you just do that infinitely.
You just do it infinitely.
I've died to that many times.
You killed me turn it's 3. Whenever you activate an artifact ability, so basalt also goes infinite with it.
That's so dumb.
It's so good.
You killed me so many times, like turn 3 or turn 4 with that stupid card.
Crackdown Construct, so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of more unique decks in my collection.
I would say unique. The Xerxes decks that you just mentioned.
The Xyrus deck?
Is Xerxes Xyrus?
Xyrus, the Writhing Tithe, the snake deck.
The card I gave you that I should have never, ever given you.
So it's Teamer, and when you hit someone, you and that player draw that many cards.
I thought you were just going to make a cute little group hug team.
It is cute. Group
no,
hug.
It's not. You have a doubling season. You have... No, shut up.
Hey, man, Listen, the drafting gods gifted
You
it to
put
me.
Locust God in the deck, my least favorite card of all time, when you know I gave you that card and you're a monster.
You know I had to.
You're a monster.
You know I had
You're just
to.
a monster.
But it's like one of the best combos in the
I don't
deck.
care. You're a monster.
Well, too bad you have a bad opinion. What's like another... I feel like I have unique decks, but I don't know off
Well, the
top.
problem is you take so many apart. You
Yeah,
put them together and
that
take
is
them apart.
something that I have a common theme throughout all my decks. Is
I would say
they come together and
your
take
mono
apart.
blue artifact deck's pretty unique.
Oh, Drafna?
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
He is pretty cool. My
You do a
Drafna
lot
deck.
of really cool stuff with that deck.
I love my artifact decks.
Yeah, Mitchell. Every deck that Mitchell builds is common. I'm like literally artifacts. Like he is the mono blue one. He has Duretti that's mono red. You have Mishra
Oswald,
that's
mono white.
Grixis. Yeah, Oswald is mono white. Like he just makes artifact piles. This is all this kid does.
I love artifacts.
That or he builds group hug. Oh, Glunch.
Oh,
Talk about Glunch.
Glunch. He's so fun. He's Selesnya, so I came back to Selesnya because after a long time of playing,
Selesnya is
I
like
wanted
one
to
of
go
the
back to
few-
Selesnya, but I didn't like any of the commanders a ton. And then the D&D set got released, and I went, wait, this guy's funny. Let me play him. So you pick 3 players. One
He's
of
an
them,
O5 jellyfish.
yeah,
Like, come
O5
on.
jellyfish for 3, which is funny as hell. I
This
kill
is
people.
so goofy.
I kill people with commander damage with Glunch, which is hilarious because he should
Yeah, you just pursue counters.
yeah,
Instead.
should not be dying to Glunch. But yeah, so one player gets 2 1/1 counters on one creature, one player gets 2 treasures, and one player gets to draw a card. And you can leave the 4th player out if you're playing with 4.
Yeah.
It's so good. The deck's so
The deck's
fun.
super good. He's put a bunch of combos in.
It's
a bunch
just
of
like-
good cards.
it's
It's
just
just
like
become a good
good.
card. It's just become a good cards deck.
Yeah,
Like even though I wouldn't put it at CDH level, it can hang with CDH.
it can hang.
decks.
Yeah,
Like it's pretty wild.
it really needs.
That's kind of what I'm
some
hoping
more,
my Esper deck is like that it's powerful and powerful enough to like that it's not a CDH deck because it has no combos, but like it's good enough to hang in those kinds of pods or that level.
Yeah,
of
like
pod.
Elsha, like
Yeah.
Calvin's new Elsha
Yeah,
deck.
yeah, exactly.
Same vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, but anyway,
You know, just a 7.
more like an 8.
Ah,
I'd give that an 8.
The arbitrary joke is that everything's a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could talk about like
Let's not talk about power
Rule Zero,
scale.
Power scale and Rule Zero.
It
Let's
means
not talk about Rule
nothing.
Zero. It doesn't matter. No one Rule Zeros anymore. I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's good.
What should we talk about next time?
We could leave a poll down. Oh, bummers!
Oh
You
yeah,
have any
bummers.
bummers recently?
Oh, I got bummers.
Oh no.
You want to start or you want me? I've started everything. You start.
Okay, my bummer.
And this is like your thing. You introduced the idea of bummers.
My bummers.
not
I mean,
so
we did a
bummers.
bummer last time.
Yeah, because you're the one that always brings it up.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a bummer every episode from each of us, and a not so bummer to
Yeah.
kind of lighten the mood.
Yeah.
So bummer's like something recently that's not been
Yeah.
cool.
They know
you
what's up.
Obviously,
Hit the bummer.
my landlord tried to double my electric
Oh
bill.
yeah. That's just horse crap. DOK,
Yeah.
if you listen to this, you're the worst. Screw you.
For real.
Anyway, not so bummer.
Not so bummer.
Did you do all the tests recently? Or...
Oh, not so bummer. Been getting going to therapy more.
Hey.
Yay!
Hey, as a mental health psychology person, get mental health. Be nice to each other. Be kind.
Yeah.
PSA.
You don't know what people are going through.
Exactly. PSA. Treat people how you want to be treated. It's not that hard.
For real.
All right, my turn.
Bummer?
So bummer. Tuesday, yesterday,
Oh no.
I overslept my alarm, missed my lab for geology, and the normal lecture, and then promptly right after, I was disoriented because I had way overslept, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go shower then and get ready for the rest of the day and just kind of take my L. Locked myself out of the room because the door slammed because of the window was open, and how Wells works is that it's such a wind tunnel that the wind comes really hard into the windows. So before I could even I just instinctually put the lock in, and before I could even think about it, the door slams. And I'm already out of the room.
Oh no.
So I had to go get a loaner key and jimmy the door to stay open to the stairway and
I hate
climb up
that.
9 floors of stairs. And So yeah, that's a bummer.
You got a not so bummer?
Also another bummer. The elevator's down in my 10-story dorm building, and I live on the 9th floor, so I get to go up 9 flights of stairs fairly regularly, unless I want to sit and wait for the one elevator that's up for over 300 kids. For like 20 minutes, which I do not have time for because I'm an incredibly busy human being.
Well, at least it's good exercise, right?
Yeah.
Not so bummer?
Right. So, not so bummer. I actually won my sales competition last week, which was pretty sick. I have a Principles of Selling class where I have to do, it's the last bit for my minor, which is still a business minor. And I have to do these different sales competitions with all these different companies. And so last week was Fastenal, so I had to do a sales presentation of simulated phone call sales presentation for Fastenal, and that's a company that I'm actually interested in for an internship this summer. So I took it really seriously, did a lot of prep, and yeah, I was a top finisher in my room, and so that's pretty cool.
That's awesome, dude.
And yeah, shows I still got the public speaking skills, still got the ribs.
Not so bummer.
Not so bummer. So yeah, I think that's a good place to end it.
Oh, I can't wait for guests to come on so we can ask them their bummers.
We should have a guest on soon. We should get
maybe like episode 5. We gotta get some more backlog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's gotta get more Caden and Mitchell lore.
Yeah. We gotta work it in there slowly.
Work the lore in very slowly because we got a lot of lore.
We talked about Commander a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit about
our personal history. A little sprinkle. A little dab. Just a little bit to get you wanting more. You know. Oh man, what an episode this has been.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Obviously, we're gonna put a poll somewhere in Spotify.
Yeah, we'll come up with a few ideas for some episodes, and we'll get your guys' opinions on it. So make sure to check out for that on Spotify and the YouTube.
Don't forget to share.
Yeah.
Very important.
Please. We are trying to, obviously build a viewership base.
Yeah.
So please, if you know people that like Pauper, like Magic, or just think they would like kind of listen to us talk about the nonsense we talk about.
We have a lot of nonsense to talk about.
Please share it with them, or even if it's people we know, because I know a lot of people that we know are listening to it right now. Please just share it around. It's really hard for us to do it all the time because we have a lot on our plate.
Yeah,
and we still have to edit all this.
We have to edit all of this. We still have to edit 2 of the tournament matches, which I was working on.
Those are getting up. We'll get those up. But thank you for listening to number 2. Finally, number 2 is in the books of the PaupCast.
Man, hopefully this footage doesn't corrupt, or this audio.
Don't say that.
God.
Don't say that. I guess you'll find out when if it goes up or not.
I'll knock on fake wood.
But thank you for tuning in. Make sure you do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, slam that notification bell, all that good stuff. Thank you for listening. Again, please share feedback. Be constructive, though. Please be nice. We're still human beings at the end of the day.
Yep.
And we're still figuring out how to do all this podcast stuff. So,
yeah.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
See you.